So this is pretty hilarious. This is unexpected, although a lot of people wondering, is Jimmy Dore going to go full Dave Rubin? Is that what he's going to do? A lot of people have been asking that question. But this is definitely pretty hilarious stuff here. It's almost like a meme. It's almost something that you would make a joke of, except guess what? It's in real life. So this is Jimmy Dore here. He's going to talk about Dave Rubin. Now, he's not going to praise Dave Rubin necessarily, but he's certainly going to defend Dave Rubin 100% here. So you can go ahead and check out this clip. He's going to talk about Dave Rubin, and he's going to defend him in his show.
In that article, it said they talked about Dave Rubin, and they said Dave Rubin, who has interviewed white nationalists, this and that, and blah, and they named everything anti-this and anti-trans activists. And I go, yeah, he does an interview show. That's what, if you're a journalist, you could say that about fucking Walter Cronkite. You could say that about anybody who's supposed to be doing interviews. They're supposed to be interviewing fucking people from all walks of life. Phil Donahue. I grew up on Phil Donahue. I know who David Duke is because he was a regular on the fucking Phil Donahue show. This idea that interviewing people who are outrageous is wrong, people who are way out of line with you politically, that is again, that is the establishment trying to control the narrative, and they're trying to keep you in your siloed away and fighting each other. That's all that is. And they're really ramping that up now because that's all they got. Because as soon as the Americans realize that this is a class war and not a left-right war, the establishment is fucked. And they're coming closer to realizing that.
So yeah, as you guys saw there, Jimmy Dore's defending Dave Rubin. He's basically saying like, people are trying to call him out or whatever, for interviewing white nationalists and all these extremist groups or extremist people. Now, if you'll remember, Jimmy Dore did an interview with like the Boogaloo Boys or Bros or whatever it's called, and he was like, oh man, I'm shocked that this person is pro all these things. It was hilariously stupid, obviously. But the obvious flaws with this obviously lie in the fact that Dave Rubin only interviews right-wing lunatics. Like, if there was a show where they actually were clearly not just a political operation that had a very clear bias, maybe like a Larry King type of show, and it was genuinely interviewing extremists of all sides, right? Like if he was bringing on like anarcho-communists, anarcho-syndicalists, tankies, and then bringing on all these, the different kinds of people, whatever, bringing on all of these different walks of extremism to interview, then it would be like, okay, maybe I'll buy that. Maybe then you could be like, oh, okay, it's an actual thing where it's like, oh, it's a show where he's interviewing extremist people. But this is, the Rubin Report is just so clearly a political operation. It's just a right-wing hack show where he brings on guests who are, incredibly racist, like Stefan Molyneux. He brought him on, and Stefan Molyneux actually alleged that when he was talking about how, the race IQ stuff, Dave Rubin actually agreed with him. But he didn't do that, and then he had changed the thumbnail and all that stuff, and he had cut out of the video him agreeing with that stuff. So that's what he does, right? And he doesn't ask any challenging questions. If there was a show that brought on extremists of all walks of life and then, really went at them or at least did a good questioning, then it would be something. But Dave Rubin's show is so obviously just a hub for racist far-right wingers, essentially, is what it is. So that's obviously the retort to that, which is hilarious about him. But, this idea that, lefties need to team up with racists or whatever to get free healthcare and stuff like that is really stupid. You guys do know that there's a lot of people, a lot of those racists who put racism over any other economical thing or anything like that. And that was that's a debate that's going on right now. Joyanne Reid had sent out that tweet, all conservatives, or like 3/4 of conservatives or something, would give away all of their tax cuts in exchange to be able to say the N-word. And I actually agree with that, because I think, most people aren't rich, right? Most people are not going to be rich. And for people, especially people who are, don't have anything going for them, they need something to make themselves feel superior, the superiority complex, make themselves feel good. So if you're a white person and you feel like you're superior to black people, that's going to inflate your, how you feel about yourself. way more than a tax cut for like $200 is going to do, or something like that, or a tax cut for a corporation. So it's more, the culture war, I feel like, dominates everything. So, and when we look historically in history, I mean, leaders often did this, where it's a far right winger, especially in terms of issues on race and equality and stuff like that, and they hijack left wing issues to then make it as a vehicle where they fake supporting those things, and they don't actually do those things. And then they turn into a genocidal maniac. That's what Hitler in Germany did. Absolutely is what he did. And also, just so you know, like, those people, these these racist people, right? These white nationalists, they don't support free healthcare for black people or for Muslims or for anybody but white people. So, most of the time when you interview white nationalists, they talk about how they want to have a strong welfare state for white people or whatever. So, it's not even something that they support for other races. And then, there is a definite debate to be had in terms of, okay, is it really okay, or is it a good, I would definitely pose the question, is it a good idea to platform a David Duke on your show? Is it a good idea to leave up Alex Jones on Twitter, which are two different questions, actually, because the platforming action is something that you're doing, whereas banning Alex Jones would also be something you're doing, but having Alex Jones on Twitter, you're not actively doing anything. In order to actively do something, you would have to ban him. So those are two different questions, really. But there certainly is a big debate to had. I definitely think that media exposure is very big, obviously. For example, the Alex Jones situation, right? A lot of people are hardcore saying no free speech and he shouldn't have been banned. I think that he had violated free speech rights in terms of his threats to, Congress peoples, as well as all the stuff that he did to the Sandy Hook family. So, I thought it was absolutely within bounds to ban him. And I think it had a really great effect. Nobody watches Alex Jones. Nobody hears about Alex Jones unless he's going on the Joe Rogan podcast. So I thought that was a good move. That's highly controversial, right, in this realm. So do you platform a David Duke? I would say no. I think it's bad exposure. Donald Trump won the presidency solely off the fact that the media literally milked every single little soundbite. It was obviously a combination of covering him nonstop and then doing horrific, embarrassing, attention-grabbing rebuttals that made them a lot of money. So, I would say that's definitely the only the main reason why he won. But how would you react if I told you, man, Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore, they might actually be secretly friends? You might be looking at that video and be like, man, yeah, right, dude, he just defended him. What are you talking about? Well, check this clip out.
I tried to send, do you know a comic named Jimmy Dore, by any chance?
Yeah.
Do you know Jimmy?
Yeah.
So I'm sending him a copy of my book, and he lives in LA proper. I don't want to say what part, but I literally mailed it 10 days ago. I checked USPS tracking yesterday. It's still en route. Like, are these the people you want to charge you your ballot?
Yeah, so it appears that Jimmy Dore and Dave Rubin are in fact, buddies, secret buddies, which is interesting. Jimmy Dore was on the Dave Rubin show back in 2015, 2014, somewhere around there. He was on the Dave Rubin show back at TYT. Dave Rubin hates TYT. Jimmy Dore hates TYT. I don't know if that's their connection. Obviously, Jimmy Dore is really desperately trying to do this like weird horseshoe maneuver that he's doing. And he is trying to appeal as much as he can to like lunatic right-wingers or white nationalists or whatever. So, maybe that's why he's upholding the connection. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is kind of just a sort of a big meme, essentially, because this is something that people would joke about. Haha, is Jimmy Dore the next Dave Rubin? Is he going to be next to, I bet Jimmy Dore and Dave Rubin are really good friends. Well, it turns out to be true. That's pretty crazy, man. Small world.